Anyways, so yeah, let's move on to the next story. I'm sorry I couldn't read that whole one for you. Um, this is from the national.ae. Yemen's Manhattan of the desert damaged by flooding, say officials. The UNESCO listed town of mud skyscrapers is at risk of collapse unless urgent help is provided. Did y'all? Yemen is just suffering from so many calamities. Officials called for urgent action after a historic mud skyscraper city of Shibam in southern Yemen was damaged by torrential rains last week. Dating back as far as the 16th century, the UNESCO listed town of tightly packed mud buildings dates back as far as the 3rd century. The town was hit with flooding and torrential rain on May 4th and then again last Monday, causing damage to dozens of towers. Hassan Aidid, Shibam, branch manager of the General Organization for the Preservation of Historic Cities in Yemen, told The National. This happens while the residents of the city are at a very critical time due to the worsening situation caused by the war, and not to mention that there is also a major famine going on in Yemen as well. The majority of the buildings partially damaged by the recent torrential rain are those located in the southern facade of the historic city. Additionally, the heavy rains caused damage to the roofs of some buildings in the city, causing water leakage into the rooms. There is also concern for the foundations on the southern and northern sides of the town, home to about 7,000 people. In addition to the new threats caused by the torrential rain, Shibam City tops the list of World Heritage Sites under threat from explosions and clashes between Al-Qaeda and the army since 2015. Remember, we are part of this war. We are funding one side of this war. So we are partly to blame for what is going on in Yemen. We're funding it through other countries, through Saudi Arabia predominantly. He said the city is in urgent need of international help to save the UNESCO World Heritage Site, often referred to as the Manhattan of the desert, and believed to be the oldest settlement in the world to use such high-rise construction. Let's move on to some. This is Hopiated news. European renewables just crushed fossil fuels. Here's how it happened. This is great. And it, I don't mean to be completely cynical about this, but it's something. Again, it's just a very little something. It's official in the first half of 2020. And for the first time, Europe generated more electricity from renewable sources than from fossil fuels. Not only that, but electricity is proving cheaper in countries that have more renewables. From January to June, wind, solar, hydro, and bioenergy generated 40% of the electricity across the EU's 27 member states, while fossil fuels generated 34%. In the United States, by way of contrast, fossil fuels generated more than 62% of electricity last year, while renewables accounted for less than 18%. The EU figures gathered and analyzed by UK climate think tank Ember represent a rapid acceleration in the decarbonization of the bloc's electricity supply. Just 5 years ago, Europe generated twice as much electricity from coal as it did from wind and solar. That is fairly amazing. I have to say, tip of the hat to Europe. Does it mean that all is well and climate change we're going to be saved and climate change is over? Not even close. Because again, on the world stage, we emitted more carbon than ever last year. Our carbon emissions on a global level go up year after year after year. We have doubled coal burning globally in the last decade. And a lot of these renewable, a lot of these investments in renewables and divestment of fossil fuels in Europe, are powered by offshoring these emissions to other countries, right? But they are, I will say that, in general, Europe seems to be generally more progressive and generally more liberal than the United States and other countries. Uh, that's a broad generalization, of course, but they are making strides in that area. So I guess this can help. Again, also, I wonder how much of this renewable energy is being, you have to wonder what the actual accounting is around the development of these, the implementation of these renewable energy sources, like how much mining and emissions went on to the production of these renewable sources. We just read something about that a few weeks ago, that this accounting is left out of the picture sometimes, but because it's offshored, right? However, we'll take this as a very small bright spot in the usually bleak summation of climate change. Again, maybe some more somewhat good news. Oh, hold on. Let me get to this other window here. Some more other possible good news. Dutch city redraws its layout to prepare for global heating effects. Well, I don't know if you can call this good news in as much as it's a city operating under some form of reality. They understand that the planet is going to heat up, and so they're taking measures, I guess, to adapt on some level. Measures including replacing 10% of Arnhem's asphalt with grass to better cope with the heat. The Dutch city of Arnhem is digging up asphalt roads and creating shady areas around busy shopping districts after concluding that the consequences of global heating are unavoidable. So they're operating in reality. Under a 10-year plan for the city unveiled on Wednesday, a new layout is proposed to better prepare residents for extreme weather conditions such as downpours, droughts, and intense heat waves. The council has decided that 10% of the asphalt must make way for grasses and other plants to better dissipate heat and improve the city's absorption of rainfall. A goal has been set for 90% of rainwater to be absorbed into the soil rather than running off into the city sewers. Trees will be planted alongside a network of roads and provide cover from the sun, and new cooling down spots complete with ponds and covered areas will be constructed near busy squares and shopping centers. Much of the Netherlands sits below sea level, and all the country's urban centers have been asked to do climate stress tests to see how they might adapt to more erratic rainfall patterns, heat waves, and periods of high and low river flows. Alderman Kathleen Beauchamp said the city was leading the way, but that the council would also provide grants to residents who proposed ways they might collect rainwater who installed green roofs. Well, that's something. So they're not penalizing people for living off grid or untethering themselves from the grid and being more self-reliant. That's good. Again, is Europe or the Netherlands or any of these countries talking about downsizing their economies, or downsizing their consumption, or encouraging people to consume less or buy less? I'm sure there are probably some holes in these news stories, but we'll take the little tiny bit of good news where we can. Even if you might have to adjust your blinders a little to go like, all right, that's great. Sultan Bev says, invest only in your local food growing communities. Andy the Gardener says all green energy tech is fossil fuels. Yeah, that's why I was saying, like, did they, this is great news, right? On some level, it's really great news that renewable energies have surpassed fossil fuel energies. Sure. But, there's a lot of that equation, a lot of the stuff has been left out of that news story, right? And especially if it's all in the service of increasing industrial civilization, which is going to end up killing the planet anyways. Ryan Gorman says, fill the oceans with biodegradable ping pong balls. Okay. I don't know. Is that a joke or is that a real solution? I don't know. Judy Truitt, I got 10 pounds of loose carrots from our organic farm here. I intend to juice them. Oh, juice them up. Carrot juice is the most delicious juice. Alhim F says the EU have a plan to use hydrogen as a battery for renewable energy and use it as a heavy transport and industry fuel. Okay. I don't know. I don't know what the prognosis of doing that is. It's a clean green mega cancer, says TCR Galaxy. Mirrored ping pong balls, yes. Anyways, let's keep going. More about Siberian wildfires, climate crisis. This is from Tuesday, July 21st. Siberia wildfires engulf area larger than Greece. Out of control wildfires in Siberia have torn through an area larger than Greece so far in 2020. Greenpeace Russia has said, imploring authorities to do more to tackle the fires, which are choking towns and cities in smoke and hastening the climate crisis. Using satellite monitoring data, Greenpeace said the total area burnt by the fires in Russia since the beginning of 2020 has reached 19 million hectares, of which 10 million hectares were forest fires. The majority of the blazes are in remote areas of far eastern Russia and eastern Siberia. This is why nobody is reporting on this. Nobody cares because these fires are just burning out somewhere where not a lot of people are at. And so why say anything about something that, is just going to raise the alarm bell for the multitude of humans on the planet? Last week, smoke from wildfires covered Siberian cities, including Yakutsk, Igorsk, Savetsky, as well as many other smaller towns and villages. Russia's sprawling Siberia region has become a climate hotspot, heating up much faster than the rest of the planet, said Grigory Kuksin, wildfire unit head at Greenpeace Russia. This summer has already brought extreme heat waves, oil spills caused by thawing permafrost, and raging forest fires. What next before we finally act on climate? Russian authorities must work fast to stop cities being filled with toxic smoke haze. He urged politicians to stop economic cuts on forest protection and to support national forestry to protect our health and our climate. Golly, that sounds kind of like what people want politicians to do in the United States. The severe impact on air quality has raised concern over exacerbating respiratory problems during the coronavirus pandemic. There is a strong evidence air pollution impacts the body's ability to fight the disease and worsens the symptoms of infected people. How about it's just really toxic to people in general, even if there's no coronavirus pandemic. But yes, add coronavirus in there and it becomes a threat multiplier. According to the Greenpeace Russia campaigners, while some of the forest fires were caused by lightning, others were started on riverbanks, most likely as a consequence of campfires. Another common cause of Siberian and Far Eastern wildfires are large-scale burnings, which can get out of control, and also due to legal requirements for logging companies to destroy logging leftovers. It's another year that Russian authorities have failed to stop these fires, risking local communities and contributing to climate change, Greenpeace said. On Monday, Russian officials said fires had destroyed 1.2 million hectares of forest in Russia, saying this figure is a quarter less than a year ago. Independent news agency Interfax said, quoting Deputy Prime Minister Viktoria Abramchenko, this figure is 8 times less than Greenpeace's estimate. So, of course, downplaying the problem is what the media does whenever the media can. And it's not just for Americans anymore. It's planet-wide. Let's move on to the last story I wanted to cover. Which is this. Washington breaks record for most 90-degree days in a month. Did you know? Did you know? Did you know this? It has hit at least 90 degrees on 26 of 28 days in July. We're not even done with July, and this record has been broken. And I'm looking at the weather forecast for today in Washington, 93 degrees, and tomorrow, 96 degrees. So looking like Washington will break this record by a couple of days. The heat this month, this is from yesterday, the heat this month has kept coming and coming and now has set a record for its persistence. On Tuesday, Washington, D.C. notched its 26th day, hitting at least 90 degrees, topping the previous record for the most such days in a month. All but 2 days this July have seen 90-degree temperatures, and we're likely to add a couple more before the month ends. The 90-degree milestone is just one of a number of impressive heat records that have been tested or smashed in recent weeks. The 90-degree days have mounted over the course of 3 heat waves this month, defined in at least 3 consecutive days hitting 90 degrees or higher. The first heat wave, which began in late June, lasted 20 days, the second longest on record. The second heat wave spanned July 17th to July 23rd, while we began yet another Saturday. The 26 days hitting at least 90 degrees this month topped the previous record of 25 from 2011. In addition to being the most 90-degree days in July, the number also exceeds the record count in all Junes and Augusts. The number of 90-degree days during this month alone exceed 40% of entire summers on record. There's that. The unusual number of 90-degree days have also accumulated at other locations in the region. Baltimore is just 1 day away from matching its July record of 24 such days from 2011, while Dulles needs 3 more days to match its record of 24 from the same year. Including Washington's 9 90-degree days in June, there have been 35 such days this year so far, about 13 more than normal. These 35 days are tied for the 5th most on record year to date. The 90-degree count is just 1 away from its annual average of 36. Using data from 1981 to 2010, with many weeks of summer remaining. The annual, and we're going to gain 2 more today and tomorrow. Hold on, where am I? The annual average will bump to 40 days next year based on numbers from 91 to 2020, during which summers have warmed due to climate change and urbanization. As another indicator of climate change, temperatures have also seen or have also been persistently warm at night. I'm going to tell you this. I looked at the temperature for Washington last night at 1 in the morning. In Washington, D.C., it was 79 degrees. It was 80 degrees, literally. I mean, basically, it was 80 degrees in Washington, D.C. at 1 o'clock in the morning. And if you can imagine, if you don't have air conditioning in Washington, D.C., and you can imagine what the humidity would be like, ouch. That is some uncomfortable times right there. Hey guys, remember to like, share, and subscribe, and you can support the channel at the links below, PayPal, Patreon, Square. Also, if you'd like to watch the live streams, you can watch the live streams on my Patreon channel. You can subscribe for as little as $1. So hopefully I will see you over there, and thanks so much.